This session is called How to Effectively Unsilo Win-Loss Analysis Insights, and it features Jordan Sargent. Jordan has been in software sales for 8 years and was the first external sales hire at Clozd. Starting in 2020, Jordan has helped sell and facilitate win-loss programs at world-class companies including VMware, ServiceTitan, Clary, Stripe, Virgin Media, and many others. Jordan led the sales floor in 2021 with the most closed new business. His success has put him in a leadership role where he's currently a player coach overseeing a team of 5 reps, including his own quota. Outside of work, Jordan spends most of his time keeping 3 hyperactive boys out of trouble and out of the hospital. He enjoys golfing, baseball, trail running, and anything outdoors. Jordan,
What's
welcome
up,
to
man?
Win Last Week, man.
It's good to be here.
I'm stoked to talk to you. As we've had people register for Win Last Week, we've been asking them, hey, what's the number one thing that you want to learn about when you come here? And we've had several people say, hey, we're having this problem where we're getting data from our CRM, we're getting data from maybe some surveys or from interviews, and all of these data sources are siloed.
Yeah.
And we're having a hard time figuring out how to get them all to talk to each other and make sense of it all, especially as even more data keeps coming in. Like, how do you stay on top of this? How do you report on it? How do you distribute it? Like, it just seems, how do you get it all to talk to each other? It just seems really overwhelming and there's not a clear solution. So I wanted to bring you in as somebody who's talked to a lot of people in a very similar situation to kind of explain the natural evolution of what somebody could do to start solving this problem.
Yeah. That's actually a super common challenge that we see all the time on our phone calls with prospects, potential customers. It's this exactly. So that's interesting that a lot of the registrants are saying the same thing. Before actually dissecting and going into the data, I wanted to just briefly touch on something that we refer to as the win-loss maturity curve. So what that means is, most people are doing what they think is a good job of win-loss analysis, and that's, we're talking to our sales reps or we're looking at our CRM data. It's like, okay, that's good. That's a good first step, but it's very one-sided and very vague, right? And so the next thing that you can do is, you can have a face-to-face debrief with the sales rep. You're going to get a little bit more under the surface, but still very one-sided. And so the next thing that you can do is go to your buyers directly, which is obviously something that we specialize in here. And given that we are a neutral third party, we're going to get a lot more candid feedback than if someone were to just do it themselves. Okay, so that's kind of leading up to the challenge that you brought up, right? So you've got all this data, you've got different feedback channels, all these different areas where you're collecting feedback. Then what do I do with it? Well, there comes a point where you need to either realize that you can't do it yourself and you need to hire a third party or build something in-house or internally for your team to consolidate all the data into one place. Because if it's in a million different places, you can't do anything with it. You just can't. You have to bring it all into one place. So that's either done by outsourcing to a third party or building it in-house. So that's kind of the first step.
Got it. So there comes a time in every win-loss analysis program's evolution, their maturity, that they reach a point where it's like, okay, I can no longer do this in Google Docs with, with like a spreadsheet and a 300-page transcript of all of the phone calls that I've done and maybe some graphs from the surveys that I've taken. Like, there comes a point where the next step is you kind of have to build something that has a bunch of integrations that'll pull all the data in and start helping you create reports, or you have to find somebody like Clozd that's already built something that works to do it, how to partner with you to help you do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the reality is a lot of people are making strategic business decisions based on merely just CRM data.
Right.
And we're changing that narrative and saying, you want to make strategic business decisions based on what your buyers are saying. And if you're getting fed a report of, a 500-page PDF or an Excel doc, executives and leadership teams are so busy, they don't have time to dive in there. They just don't.
Yeah.
They don't want to, they won't do that. Even product marketers and a lot of these people that run competitive intelligence and win-loss programs don't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
And so by consolidating it into one place and by presenting aggregate data, it's just so much easier to digest and consume, and it almost becomes a culture at companies where you can log into some sort of dashboard or view where it's all aggregated, and you can say, "Oh, this is why we win against X competitor or why we lose against Y,"
Mhm.
and it's very, very cut and dry.
It seems to me like this is also a really big transition point for the person who's administering the win-loss program.
Uh-huh.
Like at first, maybe they're the individual contributor who's out trying to find an answer to a specific problem.
Yeah,
But then as the role kind of grows, as you start to gather more information, you become kind of a glorified appointment setter.
sure.
And I'm sure you have other duties as well, but you're spending so much of your time doing win-loss, but like the actual doing of the win-loss is not using their skill set to its fullest capacity because they're spending so much time in the administrative stuff.
Yeah,
So when you find a platform that integrates and kind of does a lot of the hard work for you, a lot of these administrators, these people who are doing win loss, can actually go in and they can study the data. They can go and make
exactly.
suggestions. They can work with these teams, with their teams internally to actually improve things instead of just trying to set up appointments with buyers or send out emails or like go over transcripts for 3 hours a
Totally.
day or whatever.
Yeah, you're spot on there. A lot of the mundane tasks that will naturally become burdensome over time, it's lifted from them
Yeah.
because they have a clear place where they can
Yeah.
view all the data. Totally.
And these guys weren't hired to be glorified
Right.
appointments.
They don't want to do that.
Yeah, they were hired to like help the company win.
Yep.
So let's
Totally.
free them up to do that. Can you talk to me a little bit about the different types of data and maybe how many different types of data could be incorporated in a comprehensive win-loss program?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So as I previously mentioned, the kind of natural roll up is you start with the CRM data,
Yeah.
and we all know sales reps are usually not very good at putting in good data there. And so the next thing you can do is go to the sales rep directly. After that, you can talk to your buyer. Then you can leverage a third party to actually go and interview that buyer. So that's really the most rich source of feedback that we can provide to anyone are those 20 to 30-minute uh, interviews where we're really diving deep and understanding why did you make the decisions that you did. So that's the first and probably the most important and essential piece of feedback or feedback channel is buyer interviews. The next thing we can do is buyer surveys. Now, ideally, you're interviewing every single deal that comes through the pipeline. That's not feasible
Right. Realistically not
due to
possible.
participation constraints, budget constraints, right? There's a lot of things that play into this. And so what we're saying is, look, let's go cast as wide of a net as possible. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to go get as many interviews as we can, and then we'll supplement that with survey data. So you're getting that qualitative and that quantitative piece, again, casting as wide of a net as possible to get as much feedback as you can. If you can do both of those areas, you are going to get so much, so many pieces of fantastic insight to then go make decisions off of. There's more feedback channels, though. We can talk about buyer interviews, or excuse me, sales rep interviews, and sales rep surveys as well. It's interesting to obviously we've got CRM data, but when people do win loss, rarely do they compare that with the insights that we deliver. And so we can actually go out and do both buyer and sales rep interviews and surveys, put them all into one place. So it's really easy to just compare and contrast
Mm.
with them right next to each other. So I'd say those four main areas of feedback that's the gold standard with
That's
win
all.
loss.
And it seems like the most valuable insights are also the most time consuming and most expensive. And so there's this kind of there might be a little bit of a trade-off there as to the approach that a company takes based on maybe how many deals that they're doing
Sure.
in a given quarter or sales cycle and like the price of their own product and stuff like that. So how would you recommend how companies would balance those out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So first, you're going to want to look at your overall pipeline and how many opportunities are coming through either comprehensive or on a specific segment or vertical that you're really wanting to focus in on. Maybe you've got one pocket of the business. It's a new enterprise product you just launched and you saw, okay, we did, 1,000 opportunities over the course of a year. I'm just using easy numbers here. With that, we can back into it given our participation rates and say, okay, if you're seeing 1,000 opportunities, we can go out and do X number of interviews. And if we want to do surveys, you're going to want at least Y amount of opportunities as well to supplement that. So it kind of becomes a numbers game, a strategic numbers game, I'll say, where we want to understand the area of your business where you're losing the most or want to gain the most, but also look at the numbers to see if it's feasible to go out
Cool.
and get a good sample size.
One of the other interesting things you mentioned is comparing buyer interviews and survey data with like a sales rep's interview or survey data
Yeah.
based off of when you've seen companies do that, what are some of the interesting findings that they come up with? Because some people listening might think, "Oh, that's kind of redundant. Why would
Yeah.
you do that?" But I'm sure there's a rhyme to the reason,
Yeah.
or reason to the rhyme is the right way to say that.
Totally. I can think of one example. There's a customer of ours that we're a little bit hesitant to move forward with win-loss interviews because they said, "Look, we know why we win and lose. There's a certain competitor, we go against them all the time, and this is why we lose." We said, "Great, let's go validate for you. Okay, let's just go make sure that that's really the case." After doing a number of interviews, we found out that that competitor actually didn't come up very often at all.
Mm,
The reason why is because it was the first listed competitor in the drop down list within the CRM. So it was just easiest for the sales rep to go in there and say, yeah, this is a required field.
oh
I'll
my
say
gosh.
competitor, right? Um, and over 50% of the time, the sales rep is incorrect or incomplete in what they put in the CRM. I'm guilty of that historically, right? It's just, I don't know, it's just kind of the way it's been. So,
Yeah.
yeah, those are some interesting findings from kind of comparing.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a great example.
Yeah.
Thanks for laying that one out.
You bet.
So I think the natural course now would be maybe we can show off our
Sure.
platform
Yeah.
so people can see what the evolution of win-loss analysis looks like. What is a mature win-loss program when it's supported with amazing technology look like?
Yeah. Happy to do that. Happy to run
Cool.
through that for you.
Awesome.
Okay, so what you're seeing here is what we refer to as an individual interview report. Now, leading up to this, a lot has taken place. We've scoped out a program. We understand the areas of your business where you may be losing more or you want to gain more. Maybe there's certain competitors you're losing against more. So those are the areas we're diving into. You are assigned a consultant. He or she has an extensive background with management consulting and or market research. They have relevant work experience. They're phenomenal interviewers. Okay, so that's all leading up to this point. They will conduct an interview with one of your buyers for a closed opportunity. Could be closed won, closed lost. Maybe it was a churned deal. So if you had someone that didn't renew, maybe it's a current uh, customer satisfaction interview, right? There's a lot of different areas we can dive into and understand uh, how we can improve. So each time an interview is completed, they take about 20 to 30 minutes. And when it's completed, we will transcribe and send out the findings of that interview that looks similar to what you're seeing here. Now you can set up notifications, which is pretty awesome. You can set them up within your Slack instance or by way of email so that each time an interview is completed, uh, you can set up certain people to receive these notifications. So in this particular instance, an interview has been completed for the Aldo Group. It was a $112,000 loss. We can see that at the top. And then we've got all of this metadata here in this top section. The reason why that's important and why that's relevant is so that we can actually filter by that data when we're wanting to look at aggregate data and we really want to drill down and get under the surface and granular of what's going on. And that we can either pull from your CRM or just get by way of a CSV file from you. Every deal will also have a summary of what took place in that interview. A lot of executive and leadership teams don't necessarily want to comb through an entire interview or listen to it. And so we provide that, which just shows a lot of highlights, key points of what took place, really the meat of what happened. And then just some details here as far as who we interviewed, who the competitor was, and then what the final decision was. A big piece of the Clozd methodology includes what we call decision drivers, which are essentially the themes of what have influenced a buyer's decision one way or another, both positive and or negative. So within this interview, as I mentioned earlier, it was a loss. There's two negative decision drivers and 2 positive decision drivers. So even though it was a loss, you're still going to get some positives. That's very common. We also weight these drivers from a strong positive to a strong negative, which essentially tells us how influential or how much weight these themes had on the buyer's decision. So this top one, the sales knowledge and expertise, was a negative decision driver. It was a strong negative. You can see the 2 thumbs down there, and you can read a little quote that took place within the interview to really help validate why we selected that as a driver. And it also provides more context so you can see, okay, this is where we missed the mark. There's another decision driver here within the sales category, demo customization. Looks like the sales rep didn't customize well enough and it was too rote and rigid, right? You can go through and read that. And every time you click on these decision drivers, a quote is going to pop up to again validate and justify why we selected that as a decision driver. A lot of people ask, how do these decision drivers actually come about? Do we pick them? Do you pick them? The answer is that they actually organically just surface over time throughout the interviews. The interviewers are extremely talented. They are skilled interviewers that ask very probing, methodical questions. It's important to note that they're not just scripted phone surveyors, but we'll understand what's important to you as the customer and then make sure we incorporate that throughout the interviews. We do have the option to record the interview. So if you wanted to listen to it, you can do that, which can be helpful if you want to hear certain inflection points or tones, things like that, emphasis on different words. But then we always go in and transcribe and record every deal in its entirety. We actually first use a bot to go in, but we always use a human to go in and clean it up and make sure that it's professional and readable and so forth. So that's an individual interview report. Again, we'll send these out every time a deal is completed, assuming we can get that person on the phone and they agree to a call with us. You can see there's different tabs here indicating that there are different feedback channels for this specific opportunity. Looks like there was a buyer survey with a couple decision drivers, and then also a sales rep survey with their perspective as to why the deal was lost. Taking a step back, if I look here at the dashboard view, this is showing all of the aggregate data that's coming through, which is super powerful, which is what we talked about earlier. Anything from why we win and why we lose, that's really the meat of what we do. And then you can break it down to, I want to see maybe all deals within the enterprise segment. And then it's going to populate all of those deals. Maybe there's a certain geographical region, right? I want to see the Northwest under this product line. You can go in and filter by however you want to bring in all of that relevant data. It'll show you all your top wins and losses by dollar amount, and then the top competitors that we see as well. Chronologically, we're going to give you the most recent feedback. And then what we're seeing here is this is your overall win rate based on the data points that we've collected up to that point. So we can either sort that by dollar amount or by quantity, the number of deals that are coming through. I'm going to jump down here to the competitors tab. This is the one I use the most, probably as a sales rep. As I'm going head to head against a competitor, I want to know, what do I need to do to position myself better? Where have I lost deals in the past? What have we done well? What do I need to emphasize? So I can come in here and say, okay, if I've gone head to head against this testosity group, again, within the enterprise segment, we've only won 9%, a little over 9% of the deals that have come through. So we're getting killed here. We need to really do some enablement and education here as to how we can improve, which I do want to point out on these, with win-loss in general, we're never trying to call people out and throw people under the bus, but it's very much an educational thing, right? If I get negative feedback about me, I want to hear that, right? I want to know that I wasn't professional or if I wasn't tailoring my demos well enough or whatever the case may be, so I can improve that. And you can find all that here. Again, jumping here to the why we win and why we lose section, these are those decision drivers that we talked about. So if I wanted to drill into this, I can see, okay, so this platform category has come up as a negative decision driver. Specifically, it falls under the data security and compliance area. We will show you the last 10 quotes that populated that validate why we selected those as decision drivers. And then you can actually view on these view the deals, which will bring you back to a similar format as we shared earlier. If you click on learn more, it's going to show you a different view here that brings up all the decision drivers within this platform segment. You can see that overall there's been 560 times that it's come up. 533 of those were for losses, with 156 of those being a strong negative, right? Something we really need to focus and improve on. And so again, there's just more ways to kind of dig into the data here and make sense of what's going on underneath the hood, right? Um, the last piece I wanted to jump in real quick is this reports tab, where we have a fantastic consulting team who does these interviews. They do these reports where when executives and leadership teams say, "Hey, let's talk about why we win and lose," this is typically the report and the readout that they like to be a part of, where we will highlight a lot of the key takeaways. We'll give recommendations of what took place throughout the entirety of the program up to that point. Talk about different competitors and how you stack rank against them. So it's a very detailed, very comprehensive report, very valuable. A lot of our customers really love that. I think those are the main points here within the dashboard. So just to do a kind of a quick summary, we've got the individual interview transcripts, which you will get after every single interview that takes place, usually within 2 business days. So we've got super quick turnaround. And then we've got the aggregate data, allowing you to kind of slice and dice by top wins, losses, segment, region, however you want. And then there's the decision drivers tab, which tells you, look, this is why you win and this is why you lose. So super powerful data here. The more people that you can get involved within the platform, the more positive effect it will have. The most successful programs that we see are the ones where they have mass adoption, where it almost becomes a culture of, hey, guys, check it out. Another win-loss report's been published. Let's go see what we can do better, right? So yeah, that's kind of the quick run through of the Clozd platform. Thanks.
Dude, thank you for doing that demo.
Yeah, you bet.
If people want to learn more about the Clozd platform, or if they want to talk to you about your presentation, where would you recommend they reach out to you?
If it's me directly, you can find me on LinkedIn.
You're like, I'd love that.
Yeah,
I'd love to talk
give
to
me
you
some
about
leads,
that.
right? But if it's just anyone on the sales team in general, just clozd.com, CLOZD. There's a lot of links there where you can find ways to get in hold of us. I think it says talk with us specifically. So click that and you'll get a hungry sales rep reaching out pretty shortly after that.
Awesome. Well, my hope is that anybody who's attending today, who's feeling that the pressure or the frustration of not knowing what to do with all the data they're getting, when they saw the Clozd platform and the demo that you just did, they go, oh, wow, like I didn't know I could do all of that. Like I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
It's such a huge step up from spreadsheets and Google Docs. So hopefully that inspires some of you to take some action and maybe just learn more. Maybe whether it's feasible right now or not, it's good to just know what's possible and what the next step could look like for you. So I hope you come by, check us out, learn a little bit more, and I hope this session was useful for you.